her spirit, and I wanted to invite her because I think she has a lot to contribute to all of us. So thank you for joining us, Miss Meliea.
Thank you for having me. This is so exciting. So, and I'm jealous, that you're in Asheville because I love Asheville. So,
It's so pretty. It's very, very pretty. And some of us are going to go zip lining tomorrow, which is
yay.
amazing.
Well, I'm looking at y'all all cozied up there in the room, and I'm like, oh, it looks amazing. So awesome. All right. Well, are we ready to get started then?
We're ready to get started.
It's somewhere over here. I'm fine. Oh,
I think there's a little bit of a delay, Meliea. So
Okay.
mindful of that. But yes, we're ready to get started whenever you are.
All right. I am as ready as it gets, right? All right. Well, welcome. And thank you for welcoming me to your retreat for the weekend. And I'm so excited to just share a little bit with you guys. So I'm going to introduce myself when I start my slides because I do slides to help keep myself on track. Otherwise, I tend to like dive down many rabbit holes. But I also do a lot of just, before I talk to people, whether it's one person or, 100 people, I always check in with my intuition. And so I also go a lot on the fly. So it'll be a little combination of some stuff I've put together that that just was on my heart to share with you guys. And then, some of it will just like come to me as I start talking. So anyway, all right, let me figure out how to share here.
See it at the bottom?
I do. I just have to make sure that Canva is cooperating with me. Okay, I think I can do it now. There it is. Okay. All right. Can you see my slides?
Ma'am.
Okay. So Tasha sent me my email and said, I think where you are right now, this is the perfect presentation for you to give. My life, who am I and why am I here? And I was like, well, yep, because I feel like I've been asking myself that question for this whole last year. I mean, am I alone in that? I think a lot of us have asked this question of ourselves again, and again throughout 2020, when the world sort of turned upside down and everything we thought we knew, we were having to relearn, and things felt like they were happening to us rather than us participating in them. So it's a perfect question, and I'm so honored to be talking about it with you today. And just my disclaimer up front is that you are the creator and the curator of your life. And anything I say is guidance and wisdom that I'm sharing from my own experience. But at the end of the day, the person who knows the answer to where you're supposed to go, what you're supposed to do, what your life is bringing to you right now is you. And so I want you to just listen to what I'm saying and take what you need from it. And also, there may be parts of it that are like, I don't know about that, and that's fine. You are the one who knows what you need. So just take everything that resonates with you. So if we're going to talk about who we are, I'll tell you a little bit more about who I am besides just the person who was honored to be able to see Olympia come into the world. My name is Meliea Black, and my pronouns are she and her. I am a single mom, just like you guys. I am a writer, I'm a midwife and a birth activist, which means I advocate for equity in childbirth. I advocate for options for birthing people. I advocate for informed decision making, informed consent, all of those things. I'm also what I call an intuition activist. So I am an activist about us getting back to listening to ourselves and our own inner knowing rather than the influence that is around us. So I do a lot of things. If you're familiar at all with human design, I'm a manifesting generator. I don't know if any of you have ever done any human design work, but being a manifesting generator means I'm always going to be a jack of all trades, and I'm always going to do lots of different things. Currently, what I do is I help folks to dismantle and deconstruct the influences in their life that are keeping them stuck in patterns that don't serve them. A lot of those for folks that work with me are religious in nature or patriarchal conditioning and things that they've learned throughout life that they're now deconstructing. And then I help them to reconstruct what I call radical self-trust and intuitive knowing in their life. So I have 3 kids. My oldest is 30 and she lives in Utah right now, but she's home this week. And my middle one is 23. He lives at home still, and my youngest is 13 because I'm insane. And so here I am with 2 adult kids, and I can't believe I'm doing 7th grade again. But we're getting through it. We're getting through it. So that's just a little bit about me. There's a whole, I could go on about all the weird things and quirky, neat things about my life, but I won't. But that just tells you a little bit about who I am and what I do. Can you hear me okay? Because I'm getting a little tiny bit of feedback.
You're perfect on my
Okay.
end, on our end.
Good. It's probably just me. Awesome. All right, but really, who am I and why am I here? Who are you and why are you here? That's the question. And in the world of self-help and personal growth and all of that, this is the question that all the gurus like to answer in a myriad of different ways. But honestly, if we just talk about like who we are and why are we here, that answer is always going to be changing. It's always going to be different. I am a very different person than I was in my 20s or in my 30s. I'll be 50 this year. And so I'm not the same person that I was when I had my first child or my second child or my third child. I'm not the same person that I was before this pandemic began. There's been many different iterations and evolutions of me over time. So who am I is always changing, and why I'm here is always changing too. Now there's some things that stay the same, right? Like I've kind of always been some sort of a teacher or, guide or coach or whatever you want to call it, but the intricacies of it have changed. I started out in the healthcare field, not as a midwife, but just, I actually used to work in infectious disease. And then I got into the fitness industry and the health industry for a while. And then I got into birth work and became a midwife. And then I became a wellness coach again, but in a different way. And there's been this evolution over time of who I am and what I'm doing, and that's okay. And I want you to just ask yourself a question that I had to ask myself one day, is like, who made the rule that we have to have like this one big purpose in life, or that we're here for one thing and one thing only, or everything has to move toward this one thing, or that we have to constantly search for this purpose? Who said that? There's nobody that said that has any authority over my life. We're here for a myriad of different reasons, and those things will change. And that's what I'm going to talk a little bit about with you today, is just how that evolves in our life over time. So what do we know? Here's what we know. We know that you are a soul, that you exist in a human body on Earth. Those are about the only things that we can say for sure 100%. Everything else is kind of variable, but we know we're more than just a body and a brain. So we know we're a soul, but we know we live in the body, and we can all probably agree, I think, that we live on the Earth right now. And so those are the things we know. But we are one, I am one, you are one of 7.8 billion people on this planet. And we live on this amazing planet called Earth, which is different from all the other planets that we know exist. And just on this Earth, there is constant change happening. Everything moves here in cycles. And we have all these metaphors and models through nature and through the way things function on the Earth that teach us how to live. And so the only constant in any of our lives, including the life of the Earth, is change. We live in this mortal body, which is aging and always changing and doing different things. But it also is the home of our soul. Therefore, it is sacred. Our soul infuses our body with that sacred energy. So the body helps us carry out the decisions and the desires and the wishes of the soul. And in that big scheme, being one of 7.8 billion people is really significant, because we've been given this space on Earth to occupy, the space that you're in right now, the space that you'll be in when you go back home. This is the space you've been given. And so even though we're one of 7.8 billion, we have our own space, our own sacred space that we occupy here. So let's go a little bit deeper with that. So we are an individual. We are individuals, but we're part of a whole. Like just this weekend, you're together in this group. You're one of a few. In the world, we're one of a large whole. I like to think about it as being a thread in a tapestry. If you think of how a tapestry is put together, it's thread after thread after thread. And have you ever had like something you were wearing, or something, that's on your bed or in your home, that like one of the threads gets pulled and it changes the look of that fabric? It changes everything. And sometimes it even will compromise the integrity of it. So being one thread in a large tapestry is still really, really important. And as part of being human, in a soul occupying a human body, it means that we're going to be a beautiful combination of lots of different things. We're going to be compassion as well as apathy. We're going to be beauty. We're going to have, tendencies toward beauty, and we're going to have our days when we're the beast. We're going to experience and give love as well as scorn. We're going to be light, but we're also at times going to be the void. These are just the realities of being a human, being a soul occupying a human body with a human brain. But here's the truth of it. Every bit of that is good. It's our perfections and the imperfections or perceived imperfections of fabric that make it beautiful and purposeful. So the things you perceive in yourself as your flaws and your weaknesses, those are part of your beauty. And we spend a lot of time trying to fix those. We set ourselves up sometimes as a project to be managed, trying to fix all of these things, but we can't, you can't know bliss without pain. You can't know light without the absence of light. And so all of that is what makes this life what I call good, right? So instead of, working so hard to try to resist the things in ourselves that make us uncomfortable or seem like our challenges, we want to instead try to just navigate the discomfort of those things because they are part of who we are. They are part of our makeup as a soul in a human body on the earth. And when I say that, what I want to kind of, give you some tips about is be careful when you're using terms like self-sabotage and personal growth. Like when we're talking about those things, a lot of times when we talk about self-sabotage, we talk about, when we get afraid to do something new, afraid to take a big step or a big risk in our life. And so then we do something to sabotage ourselves. And it makes it sound like we're broken, that there's some type of defectiveness in us. But really, our fears, our hesitations, our, things that we sometimes call self-sabotage are just our human brain working as it should. At some time in our life, we had a time where we tried something, we took a risk on something, we moved forward with something, and it didn't work out the way we hoped it would. Maybe we were humiliated. Maybe we felt embarrassed or ashamed. And so our brain recorded that. And so the next time we went to take a risk or do something challenging, the fear of that moment came back. That's not a bad thing. That's not us trying to fight ourselves or necessarily sabotage ourselves. That's our brain trying to protect us and say, hey, remember the last time you tried to do something really brave and then it didn't work out? Maybe you need to think twice about this. That is our brain being pretty benevolent and loving toward us. Now, what I do in that situation is then I talk to my brain, because remember, I'm still a soul too, right? The brain is part of my body. So my soul has to have a conversation with my brain and say, you know what? You're right. That happened. I remember that was terrible. I hated it. But that was then, and this is now. And I know you're scared, brain, but we're just going to do this anyway. We're going to do this scared. And in that way, you get to bring in that fragmented part of yourself that got humiliated and, or embarrassed or felt bad or whatever. And you get to pull that fragmented part back into the whole. And that's how we move forward and, establish who we are and establish that self-trust, is by pulling those parts of us back into the whole rather than seeing them as defects that need to be fixed. I hope that is making sense. And, I hope it does for you what it did for me, which is to help me stop feeling like I'm always, taking away my own opportunities from myself. And that's not what's happening. It's a cycle and it's a process. So that's who we are. All of that is part of who we are. And it's all good. It's all lovely. And sometimes that's the big part of the beginning of the work, is to really see it as that. So then we know who we are, but why are we here? So I think about, when I'm thinking about why am I here? Well, it just depends on the day. Today, I'm here to share with you. Today, I'm here to spend some more time with my daughter. Today, I'm here to, this morning, I've been, putting together some other things in some other work that I'm doing. Why we're here is always changing too. So again, let's come back to looking at the earth, looking at what stays the same and what changes. So you're in Asheville right now in the heart of spring, and it's chilly. So seasons are always changing. And even within those seasons, there are sometimes uncharacteristic changes. One of my favorite examples is to look at the moon. The moon is never the same on any given night, even though its pattern is always the same. Its predictability is impeccable, but it's always different every day. It goes in cycles. Look at the tides, which the moon influences, but look at the tides. The water even changes. How far the water comes up on the land changes throughout the day. Look at plants and their cycles. Some come back every year, some seed themselves, some, we have trees that just keep growing, and we have bushes that will get to a certain place, and then, like, some things know to continue to grow year after year after year. Some things know that they have a shorter cycle than that. And, in all of that, some days we're the tree. Some days your purpose is to stand, firm and strong and long, and that's our purpose. But some days we're the storm that comes in and shakes things up. We're the storm that comes in and changes the atmosphere and balances the atmosphere a bit. So why we're here is another thing that's always changing. So it's not something that you have to figure out. It's not a Where's Waldo kind of thing where you keep searching for your purpose. You can just, instead of searching for it, just be open to it. So here's the thing about purpose is, if we don't have one single purpose, if our purpose is always changing, then how do we know what to do? I think that's the beautiful thing about purpose is, do we trust ourselves to navigate even when we don't know? Can we trust ourselves to navigate the unknown? And I think that's a huge challenge. And we've seen that in this last year, right? Because a pandemic was something that none of us in this generation have ever experienced before. And we had a lot of unknowns that we had to navigate, and it really threw the majority of us for a loop. So we are in an age of instant and constant information. If I say something right now that makes you more curious, you can whip out your phone and Google something and find information right away. We don't have to trust ourselves to not know very much right now. There's so much we have access to with information. So we have a lot of things that are influencing us right now. And we've lost the art of just trusting in the unknown, of just trusting in being. So, growth, purpose, all of that isn't a linear, it's not a linear journey. It's not like, here's the start point and, you'll get to this finish line. It's all in cycles. And so every cycle, every season, things will change. Some purposes in you will deepen, and some will fall off, and you'll realize, that was here for a season, but that's not what I'm doing anymore. If you're a mother, that your kids grow, They need you for lots of things when they're really, really small. They get a little bit older and the needs change. And then they get even older and their needs change again. And then they eventually, hopefully, right, kind of go out on their own. And so your purpose is always changing, even with them. And I like to look at life purpose very much the same as that. It's always changing in the different seasons of our life. And so, can you just trust yourself not to know the exact purpose that you're here for? Because, like I said, there's never a point when we arrive at our purpose. We're like, okay, here it is. I'm here. I'm doing this. That's my purpose. This is what I'll do for the rest of my days. That's not the way it works. We're always evolving. We're always changing. So I like to say to people that purpose is very fluid, you know? So there are some things that we definitely are built for when it comes to purpose. Individuation is one of those. So we individuate within the collective experience. Like I said, we're one of 7.8 billion people. So we're part of a collective experience. We're connected to each other in lots of different ways. But then we're also individuals who are making our own decisions, who are finding our own way, who are doing the things that light us up, that resonate with us, and that will be different for each of us. So we're here to be an individual. We're also here to care for each other. We're here to care for ourselves, and we're here to care for ourselves within that collective experience I was talking about. So we want to care for each other. And I like to say we care for each other without carrying each other, right? Like, I can care for you, but I can't, your journey is yours, but I can care for you on your journey. And that is a really important part of why we're here on the earth, to care for each other. And I think, again, I think this past year has shown us that, and shown us very much how we, have lacked in that in many ways. So those are things that we know are part of our purpose. So individuation, caring, but also we're here to be. And that's where intuition comes in, to be led by our heart rather than all the influences around us. I think for us, individuation and intuition are our biggest challenges. I think most of us are pretty caring people. But again, because we are in a day and age now where we have so much access to information, and there are a million courses you can take online. There's a million different books you can read. There's a million different gurus you can follow who will all say very different inspirational things. And we can, find ourselves being led by our influence and by what people have said we should do. Especially, I know, as a single mom, everybody sort of has an opinion about how you live your life and what you should do, and all of those things. And we've lost the art of being heart led, of being intuition led. When we're led by our intuition, that is that part of us that just knows without using logical thinking or education or any of that. It's just, this is what I know. And it's like a muscle. We kind of have to flex it. And that muscle has gotten weak in a lot of us because we are now in a culture where we have access to so much influence and information. And then change. As I've said, our purpose is going to constantly evolve throughout our life. So when I first started doing coaching, I focused a lot on intention with people and mindfulness. And then that evolved into, cyclical living, which has evolved into the intuitive living, which has evolved into, and it's always evolving. So the things that you feel strongly about now, in 10 years, you may still feel strongly about them, or you may be in a totally different place. So just this purpose, the thought of our purpose of why we're here, that's always going to be changing. The things that you feel passionate about now may be very different in even a year or in 10 years or in 20 years. So just being open to that journey is really important. And that is where the self-trust comes in. And this is why I spend time teaching people about radical self-trust. Is so if all of that is true, which I believe it is, if we're always evolving, if our purpose is always evolving, do you trust yourself to figure it out? That's the big question. So how do we, develop that self-trust and figuring, the ability to figure it out? It's by experimenting and by trying new things. Who is like me and, is like when you're thinking of trying something new or thinking of doing something you haven't done before, you research it to death and you ask, crowdsource, with 100 people, maybe in several groups, and here's what I'm thinking about doing, and what do you guys think about this? And you get everybody's opinion because you want to know, you want to know it's the right thing. You want to know 100%, this is sound, this is solid. And sometimes we're afraid to try anything new because we're afraid to fail. And so we don't trust ourselves, but we learn to trust ourselves by experimenting and trying new things and learning that when we need to, we'll just pivot. We'll just change. If you try something and it doesn't work, then you will trust yourself to try something new or to go in a different direction. When you think about it from that perspective, people will say, well, what if I, make an intuitive decision, but it turns out to be the wrong decision? And that's where, you have to get to that sort of broad thinking where I talk about rising above the clouds and becoming the observer of your life. Is think about the decisions that you've made in your life that you thought were maybe didn't turn out the best, or that were maybe you thought they were outright wrong, but here you are now. And I have found that all the decisions in my life that I've made that I didn't think were the best decisions have somehow still led me to the right path. So if my maybe not the best decisions still lead me to the right path, are there truly any wrong decisions? Or are there just alternate paths? Sometimes you take the long way home. Sometimes you take the short way home. Sometimes you have to, sometimes when I'm driving to the birth center, I have to get off the interstate and take some back roads because, it's the traffic's backed up. Sometimes I have to jump in the express lane and pay money so I can get there on time. There's several different paths, but they're all going to end up at the same place eventually. And so in that way, are there really any wrong decisions that you're making? And so
there's a question.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, can you hear me?
I can.
First of all, I love everything you're saying. This is how I live my life, basically. But I resonate a lot with what you mentioned a little bit ago when you were talking about how we sometimes don't give ourselves permission to just try things and do things just because we love it or we're interested or we're passionate about it. And I got to thinking more about that within myself, and I thought of circumstances where, my mom, growing up, my mom was really encouraging of me trying everything and anything. She bought me like a little tutu when I was a little girl because she saw I used to watch ballet on TV. She used to just anything she saw that I found an interest in, she would encourage it. But when I got older and of age to start making decisions for myself, she kind of shunned that. And it didn't really make sense to me, because I was like, but you raised me like this, to follow my passions and pursue the things that I love. But I think the way she came up, it was a certain way that you conduct yourself as an adult, or, you have to go to college and you have to work a 9 to 5 and you have to put yourself in a box. And so I fought a lot against that, and I found myself, struggling to find my true identity because I was always trying to live my life to please her. And especially if I was under her roof, I had to do what she said or I couldn't stay there. So when I was able to get out on my own and do things, I got discouraged because I felt like, well, maybe this won't work out, or maybe, I won't do a good job of this. So maybe I should just go ahead and do what my mom wants me to do. But when I did that, I was depressed. I was totally like out of my element. Like I didn't fit wherever I was, and I was resenting the whole thing. But when I began to really just be like, you know what, F all of that. I'm just gonna do whatever I want to do. and that freed me so much. But I think it was like a mental blockage where I was allowing someone else's perception of what my life should be to kind of keep me from life, what all life could be for me.
Mhm.
That's really
Yeah.
And that's that influence that I'm talking about, that we, because as a kid we don't care, right? Like, okay, I'm going to try ballet, okay, I'm going to try karate, all right, I'm going to be a dancer, I'm like we dream, we don't hesitate to pursue all of that within the realm that we have, right? Even if it's just in our room with a hairbrush, singing into and pretending we're in front of a big crowd of people. We don't think twice about any of that. And then as we get older, we the influence that is there, depending on, and what's happened, and we all influence based on our experience. So our parents had experiences that they wish they had done differently, and so they're like, okay, well, I'm going to influence my children to do it differently so they don't struggle like I did. But they don't realize that their own decisions, that they thought were wrong decisions, ultimately most of the time led to the right path if they're following. I mean, here we all are. we got here. So we've managed to navigate. But yeah, when we're just, working with our influence all the time, when we're trying to do the things that make other people happy and do the things that make that seem secure, right? Like you get a job with good benefits and all that kind of stuff. And that's what you get your education for. But how many people do we know with good jobs and good benefits who are miserable, or who work those jobs so many hours that they never have time to enjoy their life? So, it's like if they had followed their intuition, where would they have gone? And if you had followed your intuition, where would you be, rather than and this is a whole thing to take apart, right? When you start realizing all the things, I mean, that's what existential crises are made of, is this realization that, like, wow, this is not fulfilling me in the way I thought it would. So I I think your experience is a lot of people's experience, and from the people I've coached and the people that I know, I coach a lot of people who are like, I thought that having a steady paycheck and predictable income and benefits was what was going to make me feel secure, but I feel totally untethered. And so it's like, that's when we start learning that the things we were taught, the things that we were influenced to believe about security, about all of that, aren't true. And then we have to grapple with, that's when we have nothing left to grapple with but our own intuition, right? So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
And yeah, it's so, you know, you're in a new cycle now where you're realizing, and that's what the cycles of growth and the evolution is all about, is, you know, you're in this place now where it's different, and you're realizing that. And so you're in a new cycle and a new season of learning and growing and evolving. And if we can take our eyes off, you know, a particular destination. So that was what I think a lot of our parents did when they were influencing us to get that education and good job and all of that. It's like they wanted to see us at this destination where we had money in the bank and savings and retirement and all, and they felt like that's the best destination. But sometimes we need to be less destination focused and more journey focused, because sometimes the path to, and this is what, you know, we were talking about, sometimes the path to that destination is exhausting, is not fulfilling at all, and sometimes it even feels traumatic and harmful. So it's important for us to really look at the journey too, and say, okay, is this resonating with me? And you know, self-trust, radical self-trust doesn't mean I'm always making the right decisions and I always get it right. Self-trust means I can forgive myself when I think I might have taken a wrong direction, or, you know, not listened to my heart. I listen to my heart and to my body when I make decisions. I reflect more when I'm just making a decision rather than react. You know, I lean into my intuition. That's what self-trust is. It's not always getting it right or perceived getting it right. It's being willing to try and trusting that you'll figure it out. And you know, if you feel like you made, you know, a wrong decision, then you trust, okay, I forgive myself and I keep going forward and I try again. So that's when we talk more about intuition. It's like I said before, this is when you are just moving from a place of just knowing. You can't even really explain how you know, you just know. And intuition speaks to us through our body and through our mind. And then, you know, we have spirit leadings, just, you know, we different arenas refer to it in different ways, but the still small voice or the voice of wisdom or whatever you call it, you know, that is our intuition. And I teach people to exercise your intuition in really small and simple ways to start, because it is like a muscle. And so instead of just, you know, listening to music, you know, you take a moment to ask yourself, what do I want or need to hear today? Just small things. When you're eating, just say like, what feels good today? What sounds good? And I'm not talking about like diet culture stuff. I'm talking about, what does my body want right now? And if your body wants chocolate cake, are you willing to just give it chocolate cake? Like just listening, like, what is my body asking for, and making intuitive decisions that way. If somebody asks you to do something or to attend something, you know, and you say, let me take a moment to see how that feels when I think about it in my body. When I think about going there and doing that, my body, you know, right now my body feels tense. What does that mean? You know, does that mean that maybe I need to think a little bit longer about doing this, or, you know, maybe not be reactive and say yes right away, or not be reactive and say no right away. So using your intuition for small things in the beginning to kind of exercise it and get it going. Your intuition also gives you like little tells. Yeah, have you ever heard of tells and like poker games and stuff? People that have these body things that, like, if you're paying enough attention, they're consistent. Every time they have a good hand, they make a certain, gesture or face or something. And our body does the same thing with intuition. Our body has these certain things that it does and speaks to us in certain ways. And if we pay attention, we'll start to learn our body's tells. You'll start to learn that every time your body is saying, like, I say it's like either the hell yes or the hell no. Like, when your body is saying hell yes, you'll get a consistent feeling in your physical body. And maybe that's a warm feeling all over. Maybe it's a butterflies in your, belly or whatever it is. And you do the same thing with a no. Like for me, when I get a no, I will feel it like in the back of my neck. All those years, I thought all that neck pain I was having was like I saw chiropractors and all these kind of things. But turns out a lot of that was my body trying to say, no, this is not what we need to be doing right now. No, 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 no. And as soon as I started listening to my body and my intuition, a lot of that neck pain went away. So, your body has certain things that it will use to speak to you. That's why I'm a big fan. So when I work with a group of people, I have everybody track their body feelings and things according to the lunar cycle, because it's a very predictable cycle. And you can start to find the consistencies in like what your body does when you're involved in different things. And you'll start to see like, oh gosh, every time I do something out of obligation, I end up with shoulder pain. And so then the next time you get the shoulder pain, you're like, okay, wait a minute, what am I doing right now? Why am I doing it? Stuff like that. So that's the ways, I teach people to like start exercising your intuition in the small decisions, and then you'll be able to feel better about the tells and the messages that you're getting for the big decisions. And then, that helps you learn to trust yourself more. Then you trust yourself to learn and grow, and you learn to forgive yourself, and you feel more confident to keep trying because you're getting better and better and better at hearing your intuition and hearing that inner voice. So I tell people to, use your intuition also to ask yourself, do I need to move forward or do I need to steady myself? Because those are the two ways that we grow. We either move forward or we're steadying ourselves. Steadying. So if we move forward, obviously we're taking action, we're doing new things, we're taking risks, we're taking chances, we're moving forward, or we're steadying ourselves. Maybe we've had the rug pulled out from under us and we need to take some actions that help us get our footing underneath us again. So think about when you're walking out into the ocean. If you've been in the ocean, the waves keep coming, and as the waves come, you kind of have to brace your legs before you can start walking again, because your feet will sink in the sand, the water is moving, and you have to steady yourself. So steadying yourself is another way to grow, because we learn, it gives us that core strength, right? That energetic core strength. So, we don't always learn and grow and evolve by doing things. Sometimes we learn and we evolve and we grow by getting still and getting steady again. So, I always ask my intuition too, like, what are we doing right now? What do we need to do right now? Do we need to do something, or do we need to get steady? Let me see. Oh, yeah, Tasha, can you speak to how trauma affects intuition and how to rebuild it? So that's part of the way, is to do it in the small things, right? Because trauma that's that thing that pulls the rug out from under us, right? Like, it makes us feel like, oh gosh, can I trust anything? And that's where also that getting comfortable with the discomfort of the unknown comes in too. Because with trauma, you know, what we tend to do is we tend to we try to do things to control a situation so that we can be sure it doesn't happen again, or that we don't have that feeling again. In reality, we only have so much control over what happens in the world around us, right? And what happens around us. There are some things we have control over, there's some things that we don't. And so with trauma, we learn to trust our intuition by starting small. And that helps us to forgive ourselves, even if whatever trauma we experienced wasn't our, quote, fault. We can forgive ourselves for, you know, for going forward and not trusting ourselves. And that helps us get back to that place where we can realize, okay, that happened to me. It wasn't my fault. I did the best that I could. I trust myself now to move forward in a way that serves me, in a way that aligns with what I want to do and who I want to be. Does that make sense? And that's when that studying yourself comes in, right? So if you've just experienced a trauma, you know, it's like, okay, maybe I just need to study myself for a while, and, you know, maybe not be setting a bunch of goals to like get to this or get to that. Maybe I just need to set a goal to be right now and to sit with what's happening.
So good.
So these are just some practical ways that I teach people to I'm trying to move my move my view, my gallery view, so I can see my slide. There it goes. So first, I teach people, like, find a cyclical rhythm rather than having a timeline. So if you're setting goals for yourself, instead of saying in 3 months, you know, I want to be here, I want to, you know, I want to start my own business next year, or things like that, find a cyclical rhythm that you can work with and build on. So in my work, I use the moon a lot because it's a 29.5 day cycle, predictable every time. I can move through each of the phases. I can, you know, and so I can plan how I'm going to, you know, evolve and flow according to those cycles. But you can also use like a creation and birth cycle. So if you've had a baby and you've labored, you know, there's like early labor, and then there's active labor, and then there's transition, which is the more intensive part. And so you can ask yourself, like, okay, am I in early labor right now? Am I in active labor? Am I in transition? Is it time to push? So you can think through cycles like that, or think through seasons, right? Like everybody's like, I know there's cycles, the labor. Think through seasons. You know, winter is typically not a more active time. That's more of like a hibernation time. So that might be you're, you know, maybe you're in the winter of your life right now where you're just having to like be still and kind of hunker down, but spring is right around the corner, right? Where we're doing new things and planting new seeds and growth. So instead of using a timeline, like a calendar timeline of how you want to accomplish things, look at your life in seasons and cycles and watch how that changes your perspective.
That just changed my perspective, Meliea.
I'm telling you, when you start living in cycles, it makes all the difference in the world in trusting yourself.
That's good.
So just really practical things too, like journaling, or having like daily rituals. So, you know, your daily ritual could be journaling, or a gratitude ritual, like where you speak or you write 3 things. So I try to, when I'm making my coffee is a ritual in this house. So when I'm making my coffee in the morning, I try to make that a ritual of speaking 3 things that I'm grateful for. And that's the way I start my day. So I can remember to start my day with gratitude. Having empowering connections is a practical tool for building intuition and self-trust. Just being able to have people in your life that you're connected to, that support you doing the things that resonate with you, doing the things that align with your passion and with your purpose and with your soul in the present moment. Getting back to the basics, I mean, I'm all about I'm all about some really good magic. I do lots of good magic stuff. I have a whole shelf just right in the next room of crystals and all kinds of sage and good things. But just getting back to the basics, breathing, water, nourishment. When you're feeling like you can't read your intuition, you have no idea which direction to go, come back to, am I breathing? Have I had enough water today? Have I fed my body? Those are the basics right there. Because remember, your soul lives in this body. So, honor the body, start there, come back to those basics, and then just grounding yourself. My favorite way to ground myself is in nature. Just go outside, put your bare feet on the earth, think about what's teeming under that soil that you're standing on. There's life under there. There are roots growing. There are animals making a whole world underneath you. There are all kinds of things happening that you can't see with your eyes, but it's happening nonetheless. And allow that type of energy to infuse you, to say, okay, there are all kinds of things happening right now. Just because I can't see them doesn't mean it's not real, doesn't mean it's not happening. And ground yourself in that way. So those are the practical tools to work with, to kind of get back in that flow. So based on all that information, I ask you to journal. And I think doing it this weekend while you're in the flow, and with it, in this spirit with everyone else, sit down and do some free writing. Who are you and why are you here? And do it in this present moment. And so a free write is when you just sit down, you ask the question or you write out the question, you set a timer for 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and then just write whatever comes out of your brain, even if it seems weird and random and whatever, just write it and let that flow of thoughts, that stream of consciousness, speak and get it onto the paper. And that's the best way to figure out, like, what am I doing in the present? Who am I right now? And why am I here right now? And instead of chasing something that seems far off, way down the road, be in this cycle right now and allow yourself to exist in this moment and to evolve and grow here. Any questions? Any other questions about that?
Explaining everything.
I'm hearing comments that you did excellent at explaining everything.
Like even the analogies on how you explained it.
Figure out where you are in life. The birth analogy, I mean,
it was
made
amazing.
so much real. Because for me, I know, like I struggle, just feeling like overwhelmed by all the different things I have to do, instead of just taking a moment and just realize, okay, I'm laboring right now. So in labor, I was ready to come out, but I don't want to push too soon because I don't want anything to happen to me.
Right.
So,
you.
Yeah, so that's pretty, I mean, that was perfect for me.
Yeah, that's perfect. So much, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can
Yeah.
she like how you did that other lady?
I have a request for your slides.
Yeah, I can send that to you.
I'm sending a resource list with everything that you want to share with the mom. So I'll include whatever you send me.
Yeah, and that'll be, let me share again real fast. So this will be in there too, where you can find out where to contact me if you want to find out more about building intuition. I do most of my work on Instagram, and then I have a private Facebook group that I do that with, and I'm putting together and updating a course that I do right that I'm doing right now to build self-trust and intuition that does work with the moon cycle. And so when you get the slides, you'll see down here, I'm going to give you guys, because I feel like single moms don't get enough breaks in this life. And so I'm going to give you guys this code down here, the code COURAGE. If you want to take my course, you can do it for 50% off.
Meliea, what all happens in your Facebook group?
So what we're getting ready to do, let me get my face back on here. What we're getting ready to do starting on the next new moon, which is May 11th. I do everything according to moon cycles. I live my whole life according to moon cycles. So on May 11th, we're going to start, I call it, we're going to journal through the land of not okay. So we have spent a lot of time in the pandemic and everything, like trying to convince ourselves we're okay, trying to get back to feeling okay. But really what we need to do is learn to exist when things are not okay, because there will always be something going on that's not okay, right? So next lunar cycle, we're going to be journaling through the land of not okay. And so that'll be just a free thing we're doing in my group. Where I'll come in, give you journal prompts, be doing a couple of live videos here and there to give you things to think about, to help you, figure out where are those areas right now where I'm, not just sitting with something and allowing it not to be okay. And so that is sort of coming off this journey that I just had with caring for my mother at the end of life. And, there's no okay with that, right? But there is a way to exist in the land of not okay. And that's a beautiful place of freedom. So that's what we'll be journaling through in my group starting on May 11th.
That y'all, Meliea is number one, she's amazing, and I really appreciate you being here. But even more so, Meliea her mom just transitioned. I want to say like last week.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so
Wow.
I can just imagine.
Yeah.
You're just like, to me, like you are showing courage right now, even being here in this moment with us.
Yes.
And so,
yeah, my condolences as well.
So, even like right now, you just send all the love and the hugs and, everything that you need to you right now. And we just really appreciate you depositing everything that you deposited into us today, even in this moment in your life. So we just really appreciate you. We really, really do.
Thank you. Well, I mean, I get my courage and my resilience from my mother. She, it was a long journey with her. My mother had dementia and complicated by Parkinson's disease. And so we've known this was coming for a while. So I'm still kind of in the relief phase of that, of knowing that she's no longer battling her brain and her body and that type of thing. But, she has always been so proud of my work and encouraged me and always kept my children while I was doing it when they were little. And so I draw a lot of strength. But thank you so much for your thoughts and your good feelings and condolences and all. But I really have enjoyed like being here with you guys today, and it's good for my heart. It's good for my heart. So.
All right. Well, if there are any other questions, we will let Miss Meliea go. Anybody? Okay. Well, I will send you guys the slide, which has all of her Facebook information and contact information and the code to get into the course if that's something that you're interested in. So thank you again, Meliea.
And we really do appreciate you. You guys are-
Thank you. Thank you. Have a wonderful time together, you guys. Have a wonderful time ziplining.
Thank you.
All righty, bye-bye.
Bye.